Man, it's cold in here. Thankfully, we have some scorching hot takes to heat the room. Tone listeners don't need to pay their heating bill. They just play me through the speakers, and it heats the home. And everyone has a mansion, because we all have wealths of knowledge about this football team. And oh my gosh, believe me, I am excited. The Rams destroyed the Bucs. I went to bed at halftime, and I woke up and the score was largely unchanged, but it was a blowout. And it seems the Bucs are coming back to land. That pirate ship is being landed. Aside from the injury to Baker Mayfield, he was seen in a shoulder sling after Sunday night's outing in Los Angeles. It seems the offense in general, Baker's last few games, he hasn't been as scorching hot as it takes on this program, or as he was when he was in the MVP race earlier this season. The guard is changing. It's what you always knew what was going to happen. It's like the first episode of Star Wars, where Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, you know he's the dad. You know it's going to be a battle. You've seen the trailers. You know that's coming. And then finally they duke it out on the Death Star. And that's what this is. This is finally Bryce Young getting to the Death Star. They've infiltrated. Somehow the Panthers are in this thing. Somehow they're tied for the NFC South with the Bucs. And now they have the first game to me that really feels like a playoff matchup. And some will go, well, the Bills just played the Texans, and I totally agree. A game with similar implications. The Texans essentially played themselves into the hunt on Thursday night when they beat the Bills. It's similar with the Panthers. This is a must-win for both teams. If the Niners go out there and put up a stinker, they're not in a great place. I think the game is more implicative for the Panthers. I think this is a must-win if the Panthers are really going to be serious about this playoff push. I think if the Panthers can win this game, and then you're talking about 2 games against Tampa Bay, if you can win those, I think you're winning the South. I'll say it. This game is huge. This game is huge, and you always knew it was going to be Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. You always knew that Bryce Young would be the one at this point in the season. Look, it's the climax of the movie. Is Bryce Young going to go out there and take advantage of this weak Niners linebacking core, riddled with injuries, a decent secondary, but there's tons of opportunities to throw the ball against a team that is ranked last in the league in sacks. I think the Niners have 12 sacks going into this game. There's going to be opportunity for the quarterback. Is he going to go out there and kill it? And I think if he does, you're talking about being in first place if the Panthers win tonight. First place. Like, just let that sink in. The Panthers could be in first place if they win this game. Oh, man. You thought last week was wild with the media hyping up Bryce Young? With the Panthers getting national attention, the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, 448 passing yards, record-breaking performance from Young. Everyone's talking about it. You thought that was crazy? Oh, geez. The Panthers in first place? You're going to get, it's going to be McAfee. It's going to be all the national shows. The tone's going to cease to exist. I mean, it's like I'm a flounder sitting here at the bottom of the ocean, and all these big sharks are going to come in the pool. And I'm just going to be like, oh, geez. When did they get here? It's going to be Finding Nemo, but finding the tone. But the tone wants it to happen. The tone wants the national coverage there. The tone wants the Panthers to finally be in first place. How amazing would that be? And I still think you're going to have some challenges. Like, look, you have to stay in California, which I think is really funny. The Panthers are talking about this trip like it's a road trip. Dave Canales talking to the media. Alex Zetlow asked Dave Canales what his routine is on the plane. Like, Dave, you have a 6-hour plane ride to San Fran. What's it going to be like? What are you going to do? You going to watch movies? And Canales is talking about his whole routine. He's like a parent putting his kids in the car to go on a road trip. Like, you load the minivan, you make sure you have the DVD player. You make sure you put on Bluey or whatever it is. Let the kids, you make sure you bring Costco family-size snacks because you have to feed Derek Brown. You have 15 gallons of milk in a cooler in the back seat of the car for your defensive line. And they also are taking a trip to In-N-Out. That order is going to be like $10,000. Canales talking about going to In-N-Out in his home state, California. But back to the point. This is going to be a bloodbath tonight. The Panthers' next game. So you have the Rams at LA. Oh, geez, that Rams team, they're nasty. The Rams are so good, they have a guy named Kobe Durant. Like, you thought Kobe Bryant and Kevin Durant were good? No, meet Kobe Durant. It's like some my player your 8-year-old nephew makes in NBA 2K. Like, what if I made him Kobe and Kevin Durant? Kobe Durant! And I bring him up specifically because the Rams are similar to the Panthers. The Rams have a better roster and some better talent and a really good quarterback who's playing out of his freaking mind, Matthew Stafford. But I say they're similar on that defense because some of those guys on the Rams defense, you're like, who is this guy? Kobe Durant's one example of that. He went to like South Carolina State, middle round pick. Next thing you know, he's making a pick 6 on Sunday Night Football. Some of the pass rushers they have gotten production from those middle rounds. And I've said it hasn't been the first round picks that's the issue for the Panthers. It's been the middle rounds. And I think the win for Dan Morgan is he's been pretty good. Shaw Smith-Wade, Trevin Wallace, those mid-round picks that have panned out for him. He's also been really good. Corey Thornton, Jalen Coker's undrafted guys. That's what's working for the Rams. They're getting production from players who are from similar places. Middle rounds, no-name colleges, JUCO guys that were outcasts at one point, and now they're making huge plays. So the Panthers will be meeting the ultimate test against the Rams next week. But then the Panthers have a bye. That's not something the Bucs have on their schedule. They already had their bye. Now with Baker Mayfield in a sling to his non-throwing shoulder, they could use a bye. The Panthers can get healthy. So if you can win this game against the Niners, whatever happens, happens in LA. Whatever happens, happens in Vegas. Whatever happens, happens in LA. We'll forget about it. Well, then the Panthers travel to New Orleans. They have the Saints. Then they're on the road, Bucs, Seahawks, and then at home against the Bucs and Seahawks, and then on the road at Tampa, which is much more difficult than the Bucs schedule. I think the Bucs, honestly, if Baker was healthy, you subtract those two Panthers games, they have the Cardinals, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Dolphins. Those are all games they should win. Maybe the Dolphins or Cardinals can pull off wins, especially with Baker being hurt. And now the Bucs are at home against the Cardinals. So they have a short week, a little bit of a short week. They have to travel home. And then they need to play the Cardinals with a banged up Baker Mayfield if he plays. He's getting an MRI today. That could be a tough game for them. But either way, I think the Panthers need this game tonight, and so do the 49ers. So do the 49ers. The Niners have the Browns at home next week. That's a tough game. Myles Garrett traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns. Ooh. I know they're 3-8 or whatever it is. That's a tough game. The Browns have given some teams who are pretty good some trouble. And if they have any semblance of an offense, who knows if they do? I don't know. That could be a trap game for the Niners, for sure. But it all starts tonight. And it's going to be playing against this guy, and it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. Here's Ejiro Evero talking about his biggest challenge in the game, defending Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, Coach, what's the challenge of stopping Christian McCaffrey versus other good backs you faced?
Well, definitely he's one of the best runners in this league. So whenever he has the ball in his hands in the run game, he's got great vision, he's got contact balance, he's got speed, change of direction. So all of the qualities that you look for in an elite runner, he's got those things. But obviously the separation is the receiving ability. This guy can line up at the X receiver spot and run routes versus corners and win. Obviously coming out of the backfield as well. And their staff, Coach Kyle Shanahan and his staff, they do a great job of deploying him. And so it's hard to get a beat on exactly where he's going to align. And so the skill set, the diversity in the skill set, and also obviously the way that they deploy him makes it very, very challenging.
I find it interesting. The first thing Evero lists on the issues he's going to have with Christian McCaffrey is CMC as a runner. CMC is a runner. And I think that has to do with the Panthers linebackers. You don't have Trevin Wallace. You don't have Christian Rozeboom. It's going to be a combination of, I purposely don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. I feel really bad. Maima Njongmeta. So he is a guy that you signed off the Bengals practice squad. Actually, I think it was the same week you signed Nick Samac. So Samac had the big game against Green Bay. Another player, a little bit inexperienced practice squad type player that you signed earlier this season. Well, he's going to have a role. And then it's going to be Claudin Cherelus wearing the green dot. Bam Martin-Scott, who people are pretty high on. And I'm high on this guy. He hasn't really had a chance this season. Chris Barnes, he will be elevated as well. So they're going to have a platoon of linebackers. It's going to be getting your toes wet. It's going to be trying it. It's going to be like Sam's Club. You take a sample and see if it works. See if it tastes good. Some crab salad or whatever it is. This one's good. And then you buy the whole thing. And then you can stuff that on the plane because it's a family-size pack for Derek Brown. It's going to be trial and error. Trial and error. Now, some people I don't think have faith in it working. I actually do. Because Claudin Cherelus was your main guy in the second half against Atlanta. Rozeboom was out. You didn't have Trevin Wallace going into the game. I think arguably that linebacking core played way better. Way better. In fact, they did play way better in the second half. Held Bijan Robinson to, 11 yards? Drake London, similarly, 11 yards. Cherelus with the huge pass breakup in the fourth quarter on Drake London. Laid the wood on Drake London. Gave the Panthers an opportunity to take the lead late in the fourth quarter. I was like, why do I have blind faith in this working? Why do I have blind faith in the Panthers figuring it out against the Niners, against Christian McCaffrey, against this team that's just always good? Kyle Shanahan is a tactician, one of the best in the game. I still have faith in this banged up, inexperienced, journeyman linebacking core. The replacements. Well, the replacements held their own against Bijan Robinson and Drake London. They did it last week. So I'm going into this game with a little bit of blind faith. And I think something this coaching staff has done well is have guys ready to go. Canales, Evero specifically, they called out Corey Thornton, who's been dynamite for you this season. They talked about how Thornton hasn't always been a guy that they're going to. Obviously, he has played much more down the stretch. And he is the poster child of this. Which is, he's an undrafted player. Honestly, didn't have a huge role carved out for him at one point. But he was always ready to go. And then when some of your players didn't work down the stretch, like Caleb Evans, whatever happened to him. Some of these other corners that you had didn't work. You could elevate him, and he's been really good. He's been really good the past couple of games, and he is the poster child for this idea that the platoon of players, some of these guys that maybe you've never heard of, names you can't pronounce, literally, Canales, Evero, they have those guys ready to go. Nick Samac, another one. Jake Curran against the Packers. You have no O-line. I sat here and told you, I'm like, Micah Parsons is going to freaking destroy that O-line. He had 0 pressures against the Panthers. 0 pressures. And the Panthers were in that game with a makeshift, no-name offensive line. They can take the knockoff Aldi brand Oreo and convince you it's an Oreo. They can convince you it's the real thing. The whole time you're like, no, this isn't an Oreo. What are you talking about? And then you take a bite and you're like, oh, it is. It does work. I still think it's going to be a challenge. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to give you his best stuff because I think he sits there and looks at this game and goes, we need to win this. And the Niners are banged up. They're going to get Fred Warner back at some point. Ayuk, it's like a big question mark. But I don't think he wants to be traveling to Cleveland on a short week coming off a loss against the Panthers. Because I think the Panthers play a really violent brand of football. They're going to challenge you physically. And then if you're the Niners, you have to go on the road to Cleveland and play Myles Garrett. I don't know. That sounds pretty formidable. They, like you, like the Panthers, the Niners have a bye after that game. Then they have the Titans at home, so that should be a win. Then the Niners, they're at Indianapolis, home against the Bears, home against the Seahawks. So much like the Panthers, the Niners are in the same boat where, yes, they're a game ahead of you. They're in the playoff picture. Yes, they also have to play the Colts, the Bears, and the Seahawks. And that game against the Seahawks could be pretty big, especially if the Seahawks come back to earth like the Bucs did. And next thing you know, it's going to be the Niners and Seahawks vying for a wild card spot. The Panthers, I think their route was always through the South. They're going to have to play some really meaningful football games against the Bucs late in the season. Both these teams need to win tonight. Both these teams need a win. Shanahan gets that. And I don't think he's complacent. And it starts with this guy, Dominic Pooney. Might be mispronouncing the name. He's a guard the Niners got back in week 7. He returned to the lineup. He's had just 4 blown blocks in a span of 5 games. It's been the primary reason, and Shanahan is saying this. He is the reason McCaffrey has gotten going, and McCaffrey's been really going off these last few games. And I think further reason they're not going to abandon the run against the Panthers. Yes, the Panthers have generally been good against the run. But now they're without their linebackers. If you can run the ball, run the ball. And Evero did say it. They're probably going to use McCaffrey as a receiver, as they always do. He has elite separation. He can play the freaking X. So they'll definitely try to confuse the Panthers' defense. Young defense. Shanahan will always look to confuse them. But I think, again, it starts with stopping the run. Run the ball and stop the run. Can they do it? Can they do it? Let's talk about this. Dave Canales got some recognition from Cam Newton. Newton calls Canales a genius for putting T-Mac in the slot. Here was Newton on his 4th and 1 show on why that worked.
Now how will the defense play him?
Everything that was on that side would shift over.
But
That's if they decide.
You dig what I'm saying? That's the number 3 spot.
So would that mean not the weak side, but the nickel would get active with him?
Now it takes everybody doesn't have the capacity like a Jalen Ramsey to cover all 53 in the third. Jalen Ramsey is an extreme talent because he can play safety, he can play cornerback lockdown, and he also could play nickel. Mm-hmm. This game has not seen a lot of players that are able to do that alone. For example, Sauce Gardner will never be in the nickel. That's not to say he cannot, but he's not the nickel, a cornerback. He's more on the outside to really play to his strengths of range.
Canales obviously got a ton of credit for putting T-Mac in the slot, moving T-Mac around, taking him out of his normal X position, and exploiting some favorable matchups by putting T-Mac in the slot. You've heard it probably a million times. This isn't getting enough run. I think this is a lot more to do with the player development side than it is Canales like miraculously coming to this idea to put T-Mac in the slot. Cam Newton names it there. He goes, Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner locked down T-Mac. T-Mac was generally a non-factor in that game against the Jets. Now, Leggett went off, so it's a zero-sum game. They put their resources on T-Mac, the Jets defense did. That opens up opportunities for Leggett, yes. My take is I don't think Canales was dreaming one night and said, you know what if we put T-Mac in the slot? What if we try doing that? I think it was more like T-Mac was pretty green. He's a guy that is coming out of the University of Arizona where maybe he didn't face some of the competition that other receivers have. He was a 5-star recruit, has always been just so uber talented, and he still is at the pro level, but now it's expanding his capabilities. It's normal development, normal day-to-day development. And I think the coaching staff, as much as they get credit for the tactical side of it, which Newton's talking about, you put him in the slot and you expose some weaknesses in a defense. Jalen Ramsey's the only guy that can stick with this guy no matter where he lines up. I think it instead has to do with, well, we've been wanting to do this for a while. And Canales has even said it. When he talks about the execution, when he talks about some of the downfalls of the team, I particularly, and we blame Bryce Young, but some of that, and I think what has gone underspoken, has been the receiving core. And this is a young, inexperienced receiving core. You watch the Patriots. They have a bunch of guys who are older, like Mac Hollins has been in the league a while, Stephon Diggs. They've been around town. Even Kayshon Boutte. The Boutte has been around town. The Panthers don't have a lot of experience. And I think with that, some opportunities like this, putting T-Mac in different positions. Well, this guy was trying to learn the playbook a few months ago. This guy was coming into the league. He had no idea what he was doing a few months ago. It's like, he has his learner's permit. He can't go ride a NASCAR now. Well, now I think you're beginning to see it. Now he can go do the Daytona 500. Now he can take the wheels off this thing. And I think that is getting underrated in all this, which is this was a developmental unit. It always has been. T-Mac particularly, he's a rookie. He's green. And oh man, I think that's good for you because that means they really unlock something here. And he's sort of like a Pokemon. He was level 1. He was at his base form. And now he's evolving into like the big guy. Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all. It's just like this. Now he's like the big, massive Pokemon. And he can do everything. And I think that's honestly how they look at him. He's like the Charizard. When the Charizard goes in, I hope people watch Pokemon. When the Charizard goes in, it's like, okay, we're not going to beat this guy. Like, he is the number one thing. Like, he is the fear monger on that offense. The Vikings, they have Justin Jefferson. The Bengals, when Joe Burrow's out, it's Jamar Chase. He is their guy. He is their steed. And now they're able to deploy him that way. They can put him everywhere. They can line him up anywhere. They can use that wild card whenever they want. And I think that is something that should have you excited. This also should have you excited. How are the Niners going to cover 6'5" Tetairoa McMillan? Well, their best corner, Lenoir, is 5'10", which presents some obvious challenges. He could big body Lenoir. And besides that, they have rookie defensive back Upton Stout in the slot. the Niners beat reporter goes, this is even a bigger problem. So they don't really have a true answer for McMillan. You combine that with the unique ways the Panthers are going to start deploying McMillan. I have faith in this passing game. I have faith. And I also have faith in what the Panthers can get underneath. Because I don't think those Niners linebackers can stick with you. I don't think they can. I think some of those throws that Young was getting underneath earlier this season, I think those could come back. To the point where if you have a linebacker in coverage, throw the ball there. And that's pretty intuitive in football generally, but no, these linebackers literally can't cover. I think they have less than 50 or 100 career tackles. This is not a unit that is your typical Niners linebacking core. Because Fred Warner is as close to Luke Kuechly, a player we have seen. I think Warner is dynamite. In coverage, he can rush the passer. He can do everything. Smart. One of the best defensive players in football. He reminds me of Kuechly. He does. Well, they don't have a player like that on the field. And yes, Saul is a really good defensive coordinator. Yes, Shanahan is an awesome coach. He sets the standard for head coaches in many ways. You're going to have some opportunities to take advantage of this injury-burdened Niners defense. What does Canales say? I couldn't find this quote, unfortunately. I couldn't. But I have the words here. I couldn't find the clip, rather. We're sitting here looking at a bunch of NFC opponents, says Canales. 4 out of the 5 that are in front of us in the playoff picture. So that's a real focus and opportunity for the group. 1 game at a time, says the coach. We're playing the Niners this week. We'll worry about the next one when we get to the next one. But big picture-wise, understanding our work is in front of us. Can we execute, Canales says. Can we maintain focus and not be distracted? Because what is it going to come down to, ? Canales says. Fundamental execution. Fundamental execution. You know what that is? That's Canales, the father, sitting there with the keys to the Corvette. He hands them to Young. He goes, look, my work here is done. My work here is done. We unlocked T-Mac. We've developed this young core. Go put rubber to the road, Bryce. Go put rubber to the road. You're coming off a really good game against the Falcons. Can we execute again? Can we execute again? We have worked night and day. We have trained you. We've gone to vacant parking lots. You have backed the car in. We've seen you do it. We've seen you switch lanes on the highway. We've seen you adjust the mirrors as needed. We've seen you do it. Now go do it against Shanahan. Now go do it against McVay and the Rams. Now continue to go do it. The path was always this. The path was through the South, and it was in the hands of Bryce Young to deliver. To deliver. This is the tune. I almost said tune. That's what happens when you roll out of bed and do a segment. I'm not kidding. I have bedhead because the entire night I had a dream of fighting a Buccaneer on a pirate ship. And I'm just like, dude, I need to leave it this way so people can see me in my form. Like, I was fighting Buccaneers all night, dude. Just freaking slaying them. This is the tone. We're coming back with so much more on Tuesday. Hopefully it's a victory Tuesday. This is the tone.